What I think makes Erica successful at the highest level, and what I think I saw when she was a young athlete coming into our team, is just this sort of internal drive to continue to work hard and to try to improve.
When I see her in the room, she is ultra focused.
Her work ethic is second to none. It's not how you fall, it's how you get up. And when you get up, are you a different athlete? When she does stand up, no matter what scenario it is, she wants to be a better athlete and someone who learns from her mistakes.
She'll go against a guy that's gonna potentially, beat her up, but she's not afraid of the challenge. I say that's a sign of a true champion.
1, 2, 3, go! 4, 5, 6, great!
So Erica came to the University of Calgary in the fall of 2007, which was actually like the build-up to the Olympic trials for the 2008 Olympic Games. And so she came when it was like really intense in the room and everybody's like super ultra focused, and for any rookie or like first year wrestler coming into that kind of environment, whew, like stop, like you are thrown right in there.
Well, I remember when I first met Erica Weibe, she was in high school, and I was coaching at the UFC for the Dinos wrestling team at the time, and I saw this girl, and I remember telling Mitch, like, Mitch, we gotta recruit this girl, because she's gonna be good.
One of the beauties of Erica Weibe's development in my mind was that she was very steadily improving. She wasn't the most successful competitor in her early years of university, but eventually grew into being a Canadian champion in university wrestling.
I started wrestling in high school in grade 9. I saw a sign posted for a co-ed wrestling practice in my high school, and I thought, wrestling? That's so weird. In Canada, not a lot of people wrestle. I fell in love with it. I love the technical, tactical, physical aspects of the sport. And from that day forward, I just spent every single day trying to get a takedown and see a new opportunity. 4 years later, I moved across the country to the city of Calgary. That first year at the University of Calgary, I didn't make the varsity team. In fact, I really didn't score a single point in practice that whole year. But I had the opportunity at the end of the season to compete at the Junior National Championships. And so I went and I won, and I went to my first Junior World Championships. And I lost my first match. And the next year, I won the Nationals again, and I went again to the Junior World Championships. Did a little bit better, and I just kept working from there, like one step at a time, one takedown at a time. In 2013, I got to compete at the Senior World Championships for the first time, and I really started to set my mark on the international stage.
What would you say your wrestling ambition would be?
I guess like everyone's dream is to go to the Olympics, and that's definitely mine too.
In the early years when women's wrestling started in Canada, each club had a couple of women that decided to join and participate. The first national championships was in 1992 in Vancouver, and it was quite a small tournament.
We had a small core that we got started, and we participated in that first national championship.
30 girls maybe competing at the Nationals, something like that. There was very few. We had some judo girls that were doing it that were quite successful when they first started.
From there, we kept working with female athletes that we could acquire, and it took some time. One of the great successes that occurred early in our program, which really sort of broke through any kind of glass ceiling for women's wrestling, was that Christine Nordhagen became a world champion very early on in her career.
A year later, in 1992, women's wrestling was included at the Canadian Championships, and Nordhagen jumped onto the scene.
Well, it was definitely challenging in the start. When I first started wrestling, I just remember sometimes some of the guys that didn't want me to be in the room would intentionally try to hurt me or try to injure me because they wanted me to quit.
From the outside, I guess, in certain environments, it was a little more apparent that female wrestlers were kind of lower class or not seen as real wrestlers.
At the time, there wasn't a whole lot of funding to separate men's and women's, where you had a women's budget and a men's budget. So ultimately, women's teams were developed and they functioned off of one coach, and the men and women trained together.
They really worked hard at treating us like the guys, I guess. And eventually, the guys got used to having us in the room.
The way I've seen women's wrestling develop is that it's become sort of very normalized. It's become very much a part of our sport.
Times are changing, the culture's changing. There was no place to have just a sport with only men.
Canadian women are at least among the top 3 in the world in women's wrestling. Why do you think that is?
You know, we've had women wrestling for quite a while. We've supported them from the very beginning. We've sent them to world championships, sent them to international competitions. In a lot of cases, we have scholarships for them, and that's made a big difference.
The women were very keen to learn, very keen to compete. They wanted to be as good as the men.
So I think there was definitely that mentality of, like, we had to show people that we were good enough to do this.
She was pretty tough, but I just kept my head in the game, and I came out on top.
If it wasn't for those athletes or having that drive to perform and put that effort into the sport, we wouldn't be where we were.
I mean, it's still surreal. It's still really hard to put into words. I try not to think about it too much right now because I'm trying to do it again, so that's really my focus, trying to transcend that moment. I felt like I just stood on the shoulders of giants, and I was able to be my best on that day. And so that feeling that I had when, you know, you feel invincible on the mats, that's kind of what I'm chasing.
That win was not a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year. That was almost a 10-year plan, 10-year process. I was very happy for her. I was very proud because I knew how much work she put into the sport.
To be the one standing on the podium and like watching the Canadian flag being raised and feeling the weight of the medal around your neck, you know, it's like I never ever dreamed that I would have that moment. There was definitely a change. You know, I see it in my hometown. I see it in Calgary. I think, you know, people are inspired and they're buoyed by the idea that like somebody from Canada did that. Like I can do that too.
And when she won, you know, there was a lot of calls. I had emails and calls from moms and even dads saying, you know, Erica's my daughter's favorite athlete, and they want to get involved in that sport. So when you have that kind of success and you have, you know, kids watching and wanting to be involved because of someone like Erica or Carol or Tanya Verbeek, it feels good because you know the things that you're doing have an impact.
It's cool hearing like the stories and getting the messages of little girls that say that I'm their hero.
You kind of live in your own little world, right? You're so focused in on performance and competitions, you don't realize there's a whole other world watching.
Kids can aspire to that, and when you give kids those kind of role models, you hope that over the course of the time, many of them participate in the sport and a few of them succeed at the performance end of it.
At school, we had an assembly, and my wrestling coach at the time, she brought in Christine Nordhagen, and I was like, oh my gosh, I want to be like her, so I started wrestling off of that.
Well, yeah, like Erica did when I like saw her on like the Olympics and TV, but like also like my dad told me like it would just be fun and give it a shot, and he supported me.
I don't know, like I thought it would be a fun thing, and then I could like beat up my little brothers.
It is super challenging, and it's really rewarding when all the work from the season pays off.